Coming up on the show, Sony makes a questionable choice regarding their PlayStation Plus program. Microsoft calls cloud gaming immature tech despite their own strong push for it. And Rockstar's abandoned Red Dead Online makes headlines. But why? All this and more coming up.
It's time for the GZ Chop Shop podcast. Each week, hosts Project Itachi and War Nurse bring you the latest in the gaming and tech industry. From the hottest releases to the juiciest scoops, while breaking down all the things you wish you knew. Now kick back, relax, and prepare to have your mind blown. The GZ Chop Shop starts right now.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop. As always, I am your host, Project Tachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, War Nurse. And as always, we have an amazing episode lined up for you all. So thank you to our listeners, our Patreon supporters. And if you're new to the show, well, you definitely want to buckle up because we bring you the latest and greatest in gaming, tech news, and anime entertainment. So without further ado, let's get to it. So what do we got, Warner? She found some juicy topics, and it looks like it's stressing you out.
But no, it's not that. It's something's been on my mind all day. But okay, have you seen the recent third episode of Chainsaw Man?
I have not. I plan to watch it after this one.
Oh my god, because I just really want to talk about there's no way. It's the coincidental timing of an anime this bold dropping and the amount of people complaining about anime online that are new to the genre and are kind of just, they don't understand that our culture is not the only culture in the world, and not every culture perceives sexualization the same way. So things that are sexualized are just genuinely just jokes. In animes, people, Americans have been complaining a lot about. And there's a lot of comments that the main character, Denji, makes that are absolutely hilarious. But it's just like, I can't wait for the backlash because I can't wait to see people arguing over it because it's so funny to me.
I do think, and these episodes are for the most part made in advance and they're just rolled out.
It's hard to explain this very well without, I'm surprised you didn't see it. Like I figured you would have seen it, or I really wouldn't have brought it up, but it's just I've been thinking about all day, like how bold the show is.
The show
and that
from just the second episode, I can tell that they don't give a fuck, and they knew people were going to get upset. And they made these shows in a probably like a ladder fashion where they said, this is the episode people are going to complain because people are predictable. And from what you hinted at in our Discord server about how the third episode goes down, I'm like, they knew when people would complain, what they would complain about, and their response to those people complaining, because people are so predictable.
I was laughing the whole episode. I was just dying laughing. But anyways, well, let's jump into the topics here. So I don't have a PlayStation 5. I have unfortunately not owned a PlayStation in a little while, but I'm very familiar with Plus and the tier system that is in place now. And there are a lot of complaints right now, and I think rightfully so. Basically, what's happening is people woke up one day and they realized that, okay, they got these tier systems, or they're in a particular tier. Was it tier 1 through 3? But games that typically have expiration dates, as in when they're leaving the library and when they're no longer available for you to download and play on that tier, or in general, because they do rotations too, just like a streaming service would. There's no expiration dates now, and everybody's upset because it's like they're paying for this stuff and they want to know how long they have to play these games, and now they don't know. So it kind of goes, it really does go into a lot of the things we've talked about recently, and even the topic after this is we don't own the games anymore. We don't. So they may not be purchasing a hard copy, or they may not be purchasing and downloading it from Steam or directly from a library to personally own, but they're still paying a monthly subscription. And now they're kind of left like, well, when can I play this game?
Yeah. And when I was reading the article, it made me think, like you said, about some of the stuff we were talking about back in the past, and the fact that they've removed an expiration. And some people, you're probably wondering, like, well, is that really a big deal? Yes, it is, because what PlayStation has done is they've created a way to amplify the FOMO effect. And for anyone who doesn't know FOMO now, it's fear of missing out. Um, and that's something that every gamer in some way, shape, or form feels, whether it's with hardware or a game. The reason games can sell so fast when they come out is because, especially streamers and content creators have increased it, because they're the first ones to play it, and then everyone wants to be able to say they were in that first wave of playing a game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I think Sony is trying to do is, on the back end, because they already know the new generation of gamers, they eat the stuff up as soon as it launches, because everyone's trying to be a content creator or streamer. So those wave of people, they don't have to worry about. The wave of people they're worried about are gamers like you and I, the aging gamers. We're getting older. We know how things used to be. So we're not in that need to play it right now mode. We're working, we're raising families. We might have maybe 1 to 2, 3 hours a week to play a game. So we spread it out. We say, okay, this game leaves by October. I can play it sporadically through whatever. But if you don't know when your favorite game is leaving, your gamer instinct is going to start taking over more, and you're going to push subconsciously to play that game more than knowing when a deadline is. It's kind of like, here's a good example for anyone, probably saying, I still don't see the issue. Your favorite show, the day it comes out, the time it comes out. So, even with streaming episodes, you can afford to miss 2 to 3 because the day and time it comes out. So you're like, all right, I'll just let the whole season come out and then I'll binge it. But how would you feel to have gone through that whole season knowing the day and time it comes out, but not knowing the day and time it will no longer be available?
Yeah, because the streaming services give you a heads up, usually monthly. Yeah. And they're like, hey, this is what we're rotating in. This is what we're putting out. So, yeah. And, the first game that most people noticed was Red Dead Redemption. Missing from the tier. They took it out and they didn't give me one a heads up. And I read this somewhere else, and I don't know if I read it wrong, but my understanding was not only was that the only issue with Red Dead Redemption was the not being in the library for the people who are in the tier systems, but people on PlayStation 4 are no longer able to play the original Red Dead Redemption as well.
Sounds about right.
PlayStation 3 and 4. Yeah. It's no longer available for a digital download.
And Sony has been I love Sony. I do. And a lot of the times people feel like I give Sony passes, but
because you do.
But it's just because they've been a little bit more crafty with their stuff, but right now they're not being as crafty. They're just being bold.
Dude, they're not, man. Usually Microsoft's the one being this bold, and Epic will do shit like this. But man, Sony has stepped their game up. What just happened?
His headphones just fell. Headphones just fell right off his head.
Malfunction.
Oh no.
Man. Oh no. I don't know if you saw that, but it really felt like, because we just got done playing Phasmophobia, yep, so it kind of feels like I just got my headphones snatched off.
You just got poltergeist.
God damn. Anyways,
but yeah, no. In the last few months, Sony has really been just like, I don't want to say throwing a tantrum, but they've been in a real FU mood. And if you follow the trail, yep, it all started when Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard. That's when Sony really started ramping up their moves. and just not even trying to be accommodating. They're just like, this is what's going to happen. This is how it is. And expiration dates pulling from the game is I think the reason they're doing it, and this is what I think is their plan, and they must not be worried about it backfiring. I think their end goal is to amass a good amount of revenue to make another big purchase. And what is probably happening is while the forefront gamers jump on stuff day one, their retention is probably terrible. They like the reason they love Battle Royale so much is because every experience is brand new. It's technically fresh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But by the end of a season, they're like, all right, I'm over it. Next thing. Where the more retentive gamers, we're a little bit more slower to adapt into new things, but our attention span is longer. We're more likely going to, when we start something, see it through, play it through. We're giving them that retention, which is putting that dollar value to use. So by removing expiration dates, they're bringing both communities together, not like to work cooperatively, but for their benefit. You've got the, oh crap, I got to play this game before it's gone, speedy. And then you've also now forced the slower players to spend more time on those downloaded games.
Dude, I'm starting to feel like Japan's a little low pissed annoyed with America. And this is where I'm getting this from, okay? Because I don't feel like this is too much of a stretch. So multiple people have put out, and there's some here in this this article that it says GTA Vice City leaves in February, but barely anyone knows this. You have to read the PlayStation Japan log to know. So the only way to know the dates is the literal Japanese blog for them on their servers in their country. So you have to look for it on purpose here.
You
have to know to look for that information.
And a lot of gamers, they won't go beyond what is presented right in front of them.
I'm just saying, I feel a little tinge of pettiness in there.
To be honest, Japan being annoyed with us in terms of entertainment and content and Sony.
We have to be their most difficult demographic. There's no way we're not.
Probably.
There's no way we're not the hardest demographic to please, the easiest to upset, the hardest to get us to stick around.
Yeah. And that totally, I would say they're justified in their, if that is part of it, they're totally justified because we keep trying to make them change things for our tastes. And that's just not how it works.
It's been a huge issue. Absolutely. This past couple of years, it's been a huge issue. Like in both like anime, music, gaming, all those industries. Like there's been nothing just but bitching and complaining across the board.
So who knows? That probably may play a factor in it.
That's my little mini conspiracy theory. There is that there's just some minor pieces of pettiness.
All these companies are super petty, so I wouldn't put it past. But here's my question to you: do you think they're going to roll it back?
I think they're going to wait a little bit, maybe up to a few weeks, and see what their numbers look like. And they will roll it back and backpedal a little bit if they actually lose more players.
So I think
like if they just if it's just a handful of people complaining, they're not going to care. But if it's enough people complaining that people change or lower their tier subscriptions or whatever. Yeah. Because aren't the tier subscriptions, that's separate from internet access, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or are they together?
No, that the tier.
So you pay a subscription to have the internet access, and then there's a separate one for the tiers.
No. For some reason I thought you meant like, are you paying for your internet? No, your internet access through PlayStation to play with other players is included with the tier.
Oh, then they don't give a shit.
No, they don't care then.
Because you have to have that. So really, it's going to come down to, is it hurting Sony? Is it hurting PlayStation itself?
Absolutely not, because
and if it's not, then they're not going to make
absolutely not. And that's what I was going to say, because to play with other players, you need PlayStation Plus. You kill your PlayStation Plus subscription, you don't play with anyone. So as far as they're concerned, they're like, yeah, you
fuck you and your
exactly
expiration dates. Oh man,
because it's like, yeah,
you usually, like, historically, we do a pretty good job. Even though most of the time it's not intentional, we do a pretty good job of predicting things like before they happen, and kind of being able to say it's this or X, Y, or Z is going to happen. And it generally it does. I don't know what the fuck's happening in the gaming industry right now, dude. For the first time in 3 years, I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
It's all over the
There's
place.
massive buyouts. There's complaining all over the place. There's petty little nuances like this.
It's really bad right now, and it sucks because
Sony's being bold as shit. They're being so bold,
and this isn't even the only front they're being bold in. And the next topic, Sony is being bold in that front too.
Sony said rated E for everybody.
Everybody could catch these hands, except Nintendo, because nobody fucks with Nintendo.
Nintendo is still, I told you a long time ago, they're sitting on the cliff. They're looking down at everybody else, the war zone, and they're not participating. They're waiting until everybody else has killed each other and there's one dude left and he's like struggling, and then he's going to come.
And then he's just going to come in and just boop, flick him right off. Just give him that little. But no, yeah. This does tie into not being able to own the games. As you know, I'm very much, I do not like I don't stream my games. I pay for the access, which is kind of sucky because it's like all this is included. And it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it's like you're paying for it, you have access to it. So if you don't use it, you're not getting your full monetary value. But I still don't like it because I don't like feeling rushed to play a game. I don't like that because I could start a game, love a game, and not be invested after a week, not because it bores me, but because my attention wants to go to something else. I get ADHD with games.
And it's funny because the original intent of the libraries in general to be able to rent, so to speak, games versus owning them. Xbox Pass was really the biggest player there for a while when it first came out, just the Xbox Live and then the Xbox Pass. It was geared towards the older gaming generation.
Yeah.
Because it was like, hey, pay a subscription every month and then get to these games when you can. Play them as you can.
That's what it was supposed to be. It was.
You don't have to go out and buy a whole game. You can just, every month.
Yeah.
And you'll eventually get to it. But now, like, what are they doing now? Doesn't feel like they're gearing towards any generation now. It feels like they're trying to find that sweet spot to get the most amount of money.
100%, because the big push for cloud game, they want to, as fast as possible, and this is what I strongly believe from every developer right now, they want to take the games out of the gamer's hands entirely. No collectible possibility, no trade-in value, no, and because this is what's killing GameStop. Why go to the store when you can pre-order 3 hours before the game releases, get this almost the same stuff except minus physical collectibles, and then have it download and play? That's how a lot of people are seeing it. And if they make it seem more convenient, like Netflix, where it's like, oh yeah, I can play some of my classics, I can play some of my favorites. Why they do rotations is because it keeps us, the older gamers, on. Because they say, we rotate our PlayStation 1 classics. Your favorite might not pop up that month. So what do? You keep your subscription because you want to know when your favorite pops up. So you keep it. And they do this kind of like revolving door mechanic, because if they gave you the entire library, they'll tell you our servers can't handle that bullshit. They give you the entire library. You play your favorites, and let's just say you had a week off and you went through all your favorite games. And you're like, all right, I played all my favorite games. And maybe you're not a big online multiplayer person. What would justify you keeping PlayStation Plus or Game Pass then? Nothing. If you have your hard copy games, you could completely enjoy those without ever touching online. You could turn off your PlayStation Plus, save your money, turn off your Game Pass, save your money, and go back to your hard copy games and play them all you want. They'll say, hey, you need an update, but they can't charge you for it. So yeah, you update the game. Cool.
Have you noticed what's happening in the gaming industry though? Because I made the comment earlier that it's how much money they can get out of all the generations. They're not kind of gearing, they're not trying to kind of promote towards one or the other. And this is also why I think they're making remakes. It's a quality issue. Games, yeah, the gaming industry cared about money. Of course they did. It's a business. You have to care about the money. But it wasn't to the extent where they let quality go at its expense. What we're seeing is they're caring so much about the money now. And this isn't just Sony. This is across the board. The quality of the games are getting worse. I'm not talking about the graphics, people. I'm talking about the quality of the games. It's becoming so much less and less frequent for a game to drop, and everybody collectively to mostly agree, wow, that's a great game. It happened when Elden Ring dropped. There were haters, but that game got 10 out of 10 across the board. Say what you want, but it won't get 10 out of 10 across the board if it's a shitty game. It was a quality game. How often are we getting games like that? How often are we getting games like Zelda? Granted, I'm not saying Zelda in general, but Zelda itself, every time they drop a title, it's a good title. And honestly, I don't think it's fair to even include Nintendo in this. We can exclude Nintendo from this because they make quality games. Still.
Yeah, that's why nobody touches them, because they know that they don't make quality games.
So they're starting to put out remakes. They're starting to do tier systems, and then tier systems are also the only way to play online. So you got to get it no matter what. All these games are switching to battle passes instead of just being an individually buy like a chest or a box or whatever. Like everything's being forced on us now. And we did it to ourselves. We've talked about this a million times. We said nothing when microtransactions were popping up. And the mobile industry noticed it first. And then the PC community had already been doing it even before mobile, because we kind of had it in RPG games and World of Warcraft to an extent. And then Destiny 1 started dropping the microtransactions. And here we are now. It's only been, 6 or 7 years? When did I think Destiny came out in 2014?
Yeah, it was like 2014.
So, yeah, it's been 6, 7, about 8 years. That's a lot. That's a huge change in 8 years, from just some microtransactions that weren't forced on you and that you hardly saw in any game, to every single game across the board pretty much having battle passes, tier systems, $150 versions. When we played Star Citizen, I'd never seen a game like that where you could easily buy multiple $1,000 ships. Like, that was insane. Like, it's gotten so much worse, and the quality it's going downhill with it. Few developers are putting out quality good games because it's about, and I think FPS has a lot to do with this too. These multiplayer battle royale games have a lot to do with it, especially Fortnite. I don't personally hate Fortnite, but I completely understand why people hate it. And you don't have to be a super intelligent person to see what it's done to the gaming industry.
I mean, Fortnite set the standard of just adding random.
It set the standard of greed.
It set the standard of greed, just throwing random stuff that people love outside the game into the game. And like, why did the Marvel characters need to be in there? Like, it makes no sense. And then they went and they tapped into the anime fandom. Fortnite was willing to do everything in its power to just pull from every market possible. And the thing is like, they know that even the people who don't know about those are going to buy it just to say they have it. The main culprit, adding Goku and Vegeta, half those people cannot say Kamehameha. They were calling it the Kamiya Mama, the Kamiya Hia, and they couldn't. And I'm like, but you bought it. You just wanted it for the sake of wanting it, because in turn, you as a content creator are doing the same thing by stretching out and trying to appease to those people in the anime fandom who are hoping you might know about anime until they find out, but you got your views, you got your ad revenue. So it's a vicious cycle. That's the standard Epic set. It's like, hey, we'll appeal to everyone and then let the content creators do the rest of the work for us. And then the content creators are doing the rest of the work for them. But the full system is just messed up really bad.
Yeah, and this year is when we finally started seeing now we're at the point, right, which again we've all talked about before, where when you purchase a game and you feel like you own that game, you don't, because games get pulled now. They get pulled from libraries, not just from the tier libraries, but from the libraries. And if they pull it from the libraries that you downloaded it from, you can't play it anymore. That's it. It doesn't matter if you paid full price for it or not.
And they make it seem so appealing for streaming because it's like, well, instead of having to buy this brand new game, you can just stream it. But now you don't know when that game is going to go away. So it might be a move on Sony's part to get their day one releases played day one.
Well, Sony's in an interesting position too, because like I will not deny Sony this. The PlayStation one player games and story mode games, like their exclusives are top tier games. Like they are so good. Few of their solo adventure games are horrible games. Like they're all pretty damn good. And I think that's where what Sony's known most for. And when people buy PlayStation, I don't think it, people talk about the difference in controllers and stuff, but no one really gives a shit. Like any gamer can pretty much pick up a controller and they'll be fine. Like we have our preferences, but no one's buying a PlayStation solely based off a fucking controller. It's the type of games. Xbox, or I should say Microsoft, has bought so many battle royale IPs, or as far as, the gaming studios and the IPs that come with it. Sony doesn't really have any. Like they bought Bungie, so now they have Destiny, I guess, but they don't really have any IPs that are FPS multiplayer battle royales, and it solely belongs to Sony, and it's super popular.
Yeah. And talking on Microsoft, and we might as well bring that into the conversation because it's hard to keep this conversation going without just bringing up the next thing with Microsoft. And cloud gaming. And the title of the article is really what caught my eye. The fact that Microsoft called cloud gaming immature technology, basically saying it's still in its infancy. Basically, it's not the, it's not where it needs to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm thinking, before I even read it, I said, but you guys have been one of the biggest pushers for it.
Yep.
But the reason, one of the biggest reasons Microsoft is saying this is because, once again, coming to Sony has basically been calling them out legally about how it would hurt them. And it started with Activision, the Activision Blizzard purchase, basically. And they're saying like, hey, we all know Microsoft knows how to run a monopoly. They had a monopoly on the internet. Google called them out. Now Google has it, but because of how Google handles, they don't put themselves in the same issue. They saw what got Microsoft in trouble and they don't repeat it.
And you know what? Just to throw this out there, you can Google Google every IP Microsoft has ever purchased, or every company Microsoft has ever purchased, whether or not it's gaming, and look at it since the 1980s, dude. No other company comes close to the amount of companies they've purchased. And then if you look at the IPs that they've purchased in the past just 2 or 3 years, completely overshadows everyone else's purchases.
So the biggest issue that Sony had brought up about the Activision Blizzard purchase was obviously Call of Duty, and Sony was saying this is going to hurt. So Microsoft basically came back and was saying, no, it's not going to hurt, which, just to piss off the Xbox fanboys, because it makes me laugh. In terms of consoles, it was admitted that Sony is the dominating developer in the console market. even over Nintendo. And I think Microsoft comes in last in terms of the console.
Come out with the PS5s?
Yeah. So I didn't read it. It's 33 pages. I'll put a link in the description, but the actual CMA Phase 2 investigation covers some really, really interesting points. So I will read parts of these, starting with the part of the executive summary and certain parts that stuck out to me. This is...
You said it's 33 pages.
It's 33
long,
pages.
Right? Ultimately, yeah, we can post it in the Discord for people to see.
But kicking off the very first paragraph, basically, Microsoft proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard will give more people more choices for how to play games and give developers more choices for how to reach those people. This is basically Microsoft saying why it's not a bad thing. And it reflects Microsoft's commitment to a future for gaming that expands beyond consoles, in which a diversity of business models, distribution mechanisms, and payment options are available. And then it goes on to 1.2, notwithstanding the benefits to gamers and developers, the CMA has referred the transaction for Phase 2 review based on potential harms to competitors. First, the CMA is concerned that the transaction may harm Sony, the market-leading provider in console gaming platforms or multi-game subscription services, by withholding Activision Blizzard content, in particular Call of Duty, from PlayStation. Second, the CMA has concerns that Microsoft may use Activision Blizzard content either alone or in combination with its wider ecosystem to outcompete rivals such as Google, Amazon, and Nvidia. In a novel theory of harm unsupported by precedent, economic literature, or the evidence, the CMA alleges that the potential increase in network effects and barriers to entry without evidence or quantification of any effect is sufficient to foreclose major technology companies from cloud gaming services. Basically, they're saying with Microsoft trying to monopolize cloud gaming and acquiring IPs and then making them exclusive, it removes their competitors legally and down the road, because in order to put those games out on PlayStation, those companies would have to get Microsoft's permission. If Microsoft doesn't want to give a game to PlayStation, they now have the means to say, no, we don't want to give that game to PlayStation. And the only reason this Call of Duty even hit PlayStation is because it still has to honor an already established contract. These games are made and contracted years in advance.
And that's where we're at now in the gaming industry, is so many companies have been bought up by Microsoft, especially, that besides the far and few between indie games and studios that are around, most games can now be sort of withheld from other consoles now to compete and, you know, forcibly dominate the market. And it won't come down to which console's better or anything like that. It'll just come down to who's allowed to play, who's allowed to have a game and who's not.
So going down to section C, with Microsoft basically saying the CMA's concerns are misplaced for the following reasons. And they have like 5 reasons. Sony has been the largest console platform for over 20 years with an installed base of over 150 million consoles, making it larger than Nintendo and more than double the size of Xbox. Sony engages in conduct today, which is reflective of its market power in console gaming, including increasing prices, that's true, of its consoles without fear of losing market share, which is why I said I don't think they're going to roll back their decision, because it never has hurt them financially. The suggestion that the incumbent market leader with clear and endearing market power could be foreclosed by the third largest Microsoft provider as a result of losing access to one title is not credible. There are more than 4,000 games available on PlayStation alone. Now, I'm thinking Microsoft is reaching for that, because if there's 4,000 games available on PlayStation, are they including the country exclusives? Like, we don't get all the games Japan gets. Not even half. So if they're adding that number in there, that's an unfair assessment, because I, in the American market, don't have access to 4,000 games. I literally would love to, but I don't. So they're like, are they including all games or the American market? Like, I want to know what number that like they're basing it off of. The evidence also shows that less than of PlayStation's monthly active users are playing Call of Duty, even without all of those gamers. A highly improbable outcome from a hypothetical foreclosure strategy. The PlayStation gamer base would remain significantly larger than Xbox is today. Since the transaction was announced, Sony has acquired several game studios, including Bungie, developer of the popular online game Destiny.
Hold on. Are they trying to play
They're
Victim?
trying to play Victim.
Oh my!
So they're listing off that they acquired Bungie, Haven Studios, La Single, and Savage Games. I've never heard of them.
As a rebuttal to them buying Activision
Yeah,
Blizzard.
I'm like, I don't even know half of these studios they're listing. And a minority interest in From Software. Minority interest. They haven't just outright bought them, though. The developer of the biggest game of 2022, Elden Ring. So they're trying to use Elden Ring as their segue excuse to justify them buying Activision Blizzard.
Oh my God.
And other hit games. This complements Sony's existing minority shareholding in Epic Games. Once again, minority publisher of Fortnite, strong first-party game catalog, and extensive portfolio exclusive arrangements with third-party publishers that were over 280 exclusive first and third-party titles PlayStation 2021, nearly 5 times as many as Xbox. I'm going to tell you why. And this is the one time I'm 100% going to root for Sony and be completely biased against Microsoft. Microsoft cares about FPS. Their controller is based around FPS.
Yeah, that's what I was
Their
saying
business
earlier.
model is focused on competitive gaming and competitive shooters. That's what they focus on. That's why Halo skyrocketed Xbox to the top for a little bit. Shooters. That's what they're for. The PlayStation is the PlayStation is a multi-genre platform, with shooters being literally one of the last on the list. Because it's like, if I think Xbox, you ask me what I think Xbox, shooter. I don't see sports for it. I mean, they exist, but I'm saying I don't think sports when you say Xbox. I don't think fighters when you say Xbox. I don't think RPGs when I think Xbox. Have there been good ones in each category? Sure, but it's not the first thing I think of because of the history of Xbox. You say PlayStation to me, I think RPG, JRPG first, RPG, any RPG genre after that, fighting games, even racing games, action games. I think of every genre for PlayStation. And then at the very bottom, shooters. Because PlayStation has built its whole model on being extremely diverse in their genres. That's why they're more than double in Microsoft. If you're very linearly focused, that's what's going to happen. Like with Nintendo, you say, okay, what do I think of a Nintendo? Smash Bros, family oriented games, Mario Kart, Pokemon, it's heck, even some, like now strategy based, Fire Emblem, like the list goes on, because they're multi genre based. So that's why they can top in even above Microsoft. So to complain that Sony has minority shares in developers like From Software or even third-party ones that build some of the more hidden gem third-party RPGs, like I didn't see I see a lot of people that play Elden Ring on PlayStation and on PC. How many people you think probably play Elden Ring on their Xbox? Is Elden Ring even on Xbox? See, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, I shouldn't even have to ask that as a question. Like, a lot of the strategy games that come out on PlayStation, they don't ever see the light of day on Xbox because Xbox is so cutthroat on competitive and shooters. So them calling out the shares that Sony has in these more than unheard of devs is like the worst counter argument they could make. Haven Studios and Lego, I don't even know the other name. I can't even remember it already. Prove my point. Compared to Activision Blizzard. Everyone knows Activision Blizzard, even people who aren't in gaming. That was a major move. And with Call of Duty even when a Call of Duty game, I think Ghosts was an example where it was on PlayStation first for a while before Xbox could get it. Xbox is literally setting themselves up. Microsoft is literally setting themselves up where they can just say flat out, no, this game is not going to PlayStation. They can do that. You know, the Elder Scrolls series, it's like they're trying to force people to buy their console, buy it through them to play games that originally were available everywhere. Why? But instead of just making their own, I mean, hello, you had Fable and you let it die. You had the opportunity, but you got lazy and you let it die. So, yeah, I don't feel for Microsoft. I honestly would rather someone stop them in their tracks, because Activision Blizzard, that's literally a whole market by itself. And to say, oh, it's basically they're saying, but it was just one developer. No, motherfucker. You bought an entire genre and have exclusive rights to it.
The only reason Sony has, for the most part, been buying up IPs
is in response.
Is in response, because again, you can look up how many IPs and how many companies and studios that Microsoft has purchased, and it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's wildly insane, especially the past couple of years, especially after Mixer went down coincidentally.
Yeah, anything Microsoft has had to try to build from scratch has failed. They completely can it, and they just buy someone who's already built the model, and then they just are like, all right, now it's ours.
Like overall, yes, they're a richer company. They're a more profitable company, but that's overall. If you look at just Sony's gaming and just Microsoft's Xbox and their gaming, it's the differences are insane as far as success goes. Yeah. And Sony has a very, very successful history of creating their own IPs, creating their own games, and then working out fine and doing their own thing.
Now, Microsoft is trying to be slick, and they're saying that Call of Duty games will still be accessible on PlayStation, and because they have the ownership of it, it'll actually be a lot cheaper.
There's going to be legal issues coming out of this. Watch. I bet you anything. bare minimum, they'll do something like the Modern Warfare games as each new one comes out and stuff like that. Those will be on multiple platforms, but they will make Call of Duties specifically for Xbox and PC.
Yeah. Anything that's not going to be like a mainstream or like the Black Ops.
Which I'm not like you. Like I'm like you're more Sony. You love PlayStation, and I like PlayStation too, but I'm very PC oriented. So when I shit on Xbox, like it's coming from like the PC perspective. I try to come at this stuff unbiased. It's a little hard.
I totally come in biased. And that's even with me getting more into PC gaming. Mainly because I've had time to watch how they operate and have done the research, and I'm looking at like their counter argument, and they're saying like, you know, I just read further down and saying it would actually be more affordable now for people to get the Call of Duty. And I'm like, oh, so now you're going to start playing on the wallet aspect to get customers. Because
them buying Microsoft Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard was a really smart move, because they wanted more PC players, and most Blizzard games,
PC, with
the exception of Call of Duty, are not fun on console. I didn't like Overwatch on console, and when I switched to PC, like it was way better. You could do way more stuff. It was easier to do shit. Diablo. Have you seen people trying to? Oh my god!
I actually beat it on the Xbox the only time I did it.
World of Warcraft's a big one. Like you're not about to play that on the console. God forbid they ever put that on the console. So what they were aiming for PC players when they did that.
Yeah, and by saying that they can offer a game cheaper is going to make people side eye any price hikes that PlayStation throws out. So that's how they're going to get people. They're going to say, well, over here it's cheaper. But you know, PlayStation charges XYZ, and then people will be like, dang, maybe I should make that switch. They're going to use the wallets against each other. They're going for where it hurts. That's literally one of the business models of every business. What is your customer's pain point, and what solution do you present? Xbox sees inflation. So what they're doing is they're saying, oh man, games are so expensive. Our solution, all brand new games available on Game Pass, $1. And they still let Call of Duty be available to the PlayStation players, because then they'll say, man, if you guys were over here on Xbox, you're getting charged almost $70, or because $70 is now going to be the new norm. But what they're going to say is, we would give it to you for $1 on Game Pass, but because it's on PlayStation, we got to charge you $70. But if you were over here on Game Pass, you would get it day one for $1. The pain point, games are too expensive. The solution, offer it more affordable, quote unquote, because you don't actually own it, than your competitor.
Yeah, which now we're gonna get back to what you were saying earlier, or before. You didn't say it here, and I agree with you that gaming kind of seems like it's starting to become something that's more of a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to afford gaming. You have to be able to afford a game.
Consoles
were already getting expensive, understandably, as far as technology goes, and how insane these consoles have gotten. Okay, it makes sense. They literally are their own little computers.
Their
own little PCs.
Here's my new dating standard going down in the future, because a lot of ladies are like,
oh my god, you have a tier.
That's going to be a new dating standard. But think about it, like ladies, they're like, hey, you gotta be able to buy me XYZ. Like they, can you buy me Gucci? Can you take me on a trip? My new thing, can you buy me a PS7? Can you afford to buy me a video game? You want Gucci? I want a video game. They're about the same price. Let's go. Like being able to, we're going to get to that point.
It's everyone for themselves out there right now. So what exactly happened with Red Dead Redemption? Because I'm a little confused with the gamer that was complaining.
So the gamer,
he lost money.
He wasn't exactly complaining. What basically happened is, so a lot of people who don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2 had Red Dead Online. Well, GTA Online, because Rockstar, that's all they care about. They've abandoned Red Dead Online. I don't think it gets any more updates. I don't think it gets any more content. They've virtually abandoned it. So there was someone on Google Stadia who put 6,000 hours into that game. They had amassed an in-game fortune. Well, Stadia is no more. So they were telling her,
which is hilarious.
Yes.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah. We did. But when Stadia said, okay, we're done, that means they're shutting everything down, servers, everything. So it sucks, because a lot of those games that people have progress in, they're just going to be gone. Once again, tying into something else I said, all that investment gone. That money,
because we no longer own
the game. So the money you spent,
which I will say, like, I guess, like, against the player. Why in the hell would anyone put that much trust and belief into Google Stadia when it wasn't? It's not like it was one of the bigger systems or the biggest ways to consume gaming.
But it was more easily accessible, and it was far more affordable. This person, who knows, they may have, they might like to game, but gaming is expensive. Gaming is becoming for the wealthy. Realistically, if you wanted to step into gaming, and I don't know if I think they're a content creator, but maybe they main PC and they just didn't want to invest in a console. They're $500-$600 now without a game, just to get the hardware. Google Stadia was like $100. Though that's a steal. And then you didn't have to go to the store and buy games. The potential, I will say this. I saw Google Stadia and I kind of saw Luna in that same category. They're the Dreamcasts of today.
What happened to Luna?
I think Luna's still a thing. It's
I don't think they're a thing much longer because I just had to say what happened with
there's
Luna.
still a thing. I see it on my Fire TV. I just don't see, like, I just don't want to play a video game with my remote. That's just not comfortable. But
do you think cloud gaming is ahead of its time right now and people just aren't ready for it?
It is ahead of its time, and the only way cloud gaming will 100% be accepted is once the major corporations have finally fully implemented their plan and they finally say, and I promise you it'll be this specific reason. They'll start to say it's because it'll be more eco-friendly, because that's the one thing that gets everybody to start moving with it. It'll be safer for the economy and the environment and all of that, to start doing away with hard copies. Oh, how much rubble gets when we print?
Well, we're already doing that with digital downloads and
yeah.
We don't really have disk drives.
Exactly.
Anymore. Like you have to go out of your way. Now, you used to have to go out of your way to find one without a disk drive. Now you got to go out of your way to find one with a disk drive. Funny how our motives changed.
And the PlayStation, PS5 is already starting that way with the digital only one.
Yeah, because people are realizing, they're like, oh shit, they're not selling the disk drives anymore, or they're more expensive somehow, and they're starting to catch on.
Because eventually you're just going to, it'll become a glorified Fire Stick. Like basically Google Stadia and Amazon were already just jumping ahead. But because they're the new kids on the block, no one was willing to accept that that is our soon to be reality. They were already there. That's why when I said Microsoft saying, oh, it's cloud game is immature tech, I'm like, no,
because they're not pumping all their money into it. And well, they don't have it. It wouldn't matter if they did or not, but they can afford to not put all their eggs in one basket with gaming and watch everybody else make mistakes. They do this every time. They watch everyone else fuck up, and then they take something that everyone else was doing and they do it after watching everyone else.
And then they had to admit that they weren't using Azure, because everyone was like, well, you guys are making a huge push for Amazon, but for cloud gaming. And they're like, well, we don't use Azure, which is owned by Amazon. They're trying to build their own ecosystem, 100% theirs.
Yeah. Xbox is going to be the first one to pull off cloud gaming successfully.
Yeah. And the only reason they say it's immature tech is because they've watched everyone else fail. And the only reason Stadia failed, the only reason Luna will possibly fail, well, maybe not. Amazon is good at.
Yeah, but look how Amazon treats Twitch. Like, they don't pump money into these things.
But
that's why they don't give a shit what people complain or think about Twitch or anything. That's why they get bullshit excuses when stuff happens, or they ban person for one thing and not the other. They don't give a shit.
They don't, because they know, look how easily we forget. Twitch is still going. Twitch will not die. We want it to.
No, Twitch isn't going.
Twitch will not die. They slap a Band-Aid and they just let everyone cry.
Not to go too far off the side here, but what Twitch just needs a solid competitor. Yeah. They need a solid competitor. Hopefully it's going to be Trovo, or maybe YouTube will start making a comeback in some way. But yeah, Twitch needs a solid streaming competitor.
But yeah, Luna and Stadia are just ahead of the curve too soon, before people were used to that becoming the norm. They wanted to make it the norm because they wanted to be the pioneers in it, but it was too soon to do so, with Microsoft, Sony, and even Nintendo still floating around. Until those three make the move, no one else will really stand a chance. And right now they're all like creeping towards it while eyeing each other. Once one of them comfortably crosses that finish line, then everyone else will do it, because then the market will be open for it. But until the big three do it, anyone else who comes up with it is going to be, because even GeForce Now, they're struggling, and that's NVIDIA. And
I think NVIDIA is going to be struggling for a while after EVGA left.
And that's the thing. GeForce Now was out before EVGA left, and they were struggling with their cloud gaming. People are just not accepting of it yet, because the big three have to do it. If they don't do it, no one is going to be accepting of it at all. Think of it like this. When you went to school, if the cool kids didn't wear it, it wasn't cool. It could be brand new. But unless you were in that cool kid club, nobody cared that you wore it. And in fact, could turn around and make fun of you about it.
Sony's not even trying to do it. They're not even fucking attempting.
They are and they aren't. They want digital content, not so much cloud gaming. They really just want people to just download from their store and operate through their store and go digital.
Xbox is going to pull it off first. Nintendo's going to follow suit. And then, which Nintendo, I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just the type of games they have. Nintendo's the only one that makes the most sense to me. Like they like in my head, Nintendo would get away with it if they wanted to do some sort of cloud gaming situation, but they don't have to either.
I don't think Nintendo will do cloud gaming. I'm gonna tell you why.
They don't have to.
They will cloud game, and I know people think, but they have Nintendo Online. Look how old those games are. We're talking before HD TV was even a thing, before flat screens were even a thing. Nintendo does not like the chance of anyone even acquiring through some kind of mistake access to their games. Cloud gaming is like, that's too many people for us to keep track of. We don't like it. We don't know, like, you could, like, how you're going to be streaming that game. No. Don't like it. You download our shit and we watch you. If Nintendo got into cloud gaming, you want to talk about someone that would have so many security features, it would make you just, your head explode. It would be Nintendo. And for them, that's extra work that they don't want to deal with right now. Nintendo would probably be the last ones to step into it because there's just too many variables that do not fit with how they run business, like at all. And cloud gaming, Nintendo games, all accessible for like $20. Can you see Nintendo doing that? Their games, they have games that came out on older systems that are still $50. Nintendo likes their money, and a lot of their revenue is from hardware.
Yeah, but you know what? Nintendo earned the arrogance they have to, because you got to think about it. They're the top three in gaming. Yet most of the gaming, when people buy the Switches, yeah, it's for their personal IPs. They got the Pokemon games, Digimon games, stuff like that, and Zelda, but they stand alone. Those Switches get sold out, and people purchase Switches and play Nintendo, not thinking about the other games. Like, they're just thinking about Nintendo only and their games. PlayStation and Xbox, it's more of a preference between the two. A lot of people, they're not buying Xbox or Sony specifically because of a game. That's one of the reasons, but it's not specifically because of that. Nintendo, it's specifically because of that. The specific types of games they have, which is impressive. Like, they make as much money as they do, and they're as big as they are, specifically off their games.
Because when I load up my Switch, I don't get any game that's available on other consoles on my Switch because I have solely Switch focused, Switch only games. You look at
how many more times do you think I can say specifically?
Yeah, what's the count on that one? Like 5, 6? But no, like that's my Switch. You look at my Switch library and you're going to see mostly Nintendo only games because that's what I see my Switch for. On the PlayStation, when I did have a working Xbox, I would have that moment where it came down to like, okay, where do I put this game? Do I get on the Xbox to play with my Xbox friends, or do I get on the PlayStation to play with my PlayStation friends? Which controller? Then it come down to something stupid like, which controller do I feel more comfortable playing this game with? And usually if it was a shooter, I'm like, you know what? Xbox. RPG, PlayStation. And that's how I had to break it down based off the genre. And then which one felt more right. So it was really weird. I'm not going to lie. Like, I use my Xbox controller now for my PC for games that I don't feel comfortable using a keyboard with. And playing Elden Ring with an Xbox controller at first felt so weird for me like I knew there was a way for me to hook up my PlayStation controller, but I was just too lazy because it's, you need like a third party application and blah, 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 where you just plug in an Xbox controller and you go. And even now it still feels a little weird to me because I'm like, I feel like I should be shooting with these controls. I make it work, but I feel like I should be shooting. Like my Elden Ring character should just whip out a gun and just, we go.
Yeah. I actually do, but I prefer the Xbox controllers. I like the layout better. But PlayStation, they're actually about to drop a controller that's a similar layout.
Yeah,
They finally decided to do it.
I don't like it. I mean, I don't like it because
it looks ugly as shit.
I don't like it.
The place like Sony PlayStation, I love you, but that controller looks ugly. So if y'all haven't seen it, just look up.
It's $200, right?
New PlayStation.
It's like $200.
It's their version. Yeah, it's their version of Xbox's Elite controller, but it's their version.
To wrap this up, can we just say Sony has officially declared war on Microsoft out in the open?
They're salty. It's pretty obvious how salty they are because they're taking it out on us like we fucking did it.
They're taking it out on us because the money. I say in less than 2 years, you're going to see Sony make another acquisition, and this is the money collection phase right now. They've got their eye on someone. They haven't said who. They won't say who. And it's going to be someone that's going to draw. It would be a blow to Microsoft.
You notice how no one's purchased EA yet?
Who could purchase EA? They're too greedy. EA doesn't want to share their profits.
I think everyone wants to stay away from EA because they're notorious for their microtransactions. Mm-hmm. Like they're the worst about it. And even Sony and Microsoft are like, let's ease into this before one of us buys them.
But Sony is gearing up to make a purchase. That's my prediction right now.
I'm surprised the EA doesn't put out their own console, fucking just the EA fucking dime bag or some shit. And you actually literally have to put your fucking card in it and it charges you 25 cents to even play the console every time.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But you know what? I'm going to tell you why EA would never come out with a console. That costs money. Their whole thing is to bring money in.
Yeah. Their whole thing is what's the least we can do for the most profit?
They're like, wait.
And make them pay for the shitty experiences they have.
Exactly.
Over and over.
I mean, we'd have to spend money to build the console. Yes. Oh, fuck that.
Did you see this year's like for all their sports games?
No.
Especially Madden. Their sales are nowhere like they're not as good this year.
No. Nobody cares.
And they weren't as good last year. They've been going down.
Nobody cares about them anymore. That's what we were talking about.
I think people are starting to realize that you're just paying a shitload of money for a roster update
that they could literally make available.
Not even a full roster update, just like 10 players.
And here's the thing.
10 players and like slightly better
even
graphics.
If the NFL is the biggest cock block in it, I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure you got the money to go down and cut a deal with them. It's a win for them too. Put it on a season.
It won't happen until because the NFL's been losing money anyways the past few years. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to find the website I found this on, but it basically contrasted like the sports industry and the gaming industry over the past 3 years pre-COVID and during COVID and after COVID, and it's really interesting because the gaming industry. Like it's like all the money that the sports industry has lost has been dumped into the gaming industry and the streaming industries, that sort of stuff. So I think that when the NFL starts losing enough money, they'll consider contracts with Madden and other games.
But lots of information put out to you guys, lots of predictions, lots of researched and opinionated thoughts. So we definitely would love to hear what you guys think about, cloud gaming and no longer owning our games. And do you think cloud gaming is a good choice? Why? Do you think it's a bad choice? Why? Do you agree or disagree? Why? Let us know. Hit us up on our website, osn-media.com. Make sure to click on the show, GZ Chop Shop podcast, and then at the very top you can submit your clip so that we can hear your guys' thoughts and maybe air it on a future episode, because we definitely want to know. And if you happen to be in the industry and happen to work for one of these developers, let us know if there's something we're missing. Cause it seems like the gloves have come off across the board and everyone's in a slugfest except for Nintendo. They're just waiting in the wings, just waiting for their moment.
Man, they're just drinking tea and popcorn.
Yeah,
man.
Nobody's going to touch their market. They know they got it.
Probably looking at their Mario movie like, did we make the right decision?
Yeah. Well, you know what? But they don't care because they know that the fans are still going to be drawn to it just because it's Mario.
Yep.
They will go watch it just to see it fail. And that is like, once again, we do it to ourselves. We are the only people. We're a race of the human race will pay money to complain.
I will say this. So I think you'll agree with me. We, as gamers, just across the board, we have only gotten one pass ever. We have only gotten one complaint heard because it was the only time that everybody or every gamer around the world unanimously sided and said, you know what, we've had enough.
Sonic?
And it was Sonic. That was it. And that we wasted our one try. We could have done it with microtransactions and battle passes. No, we didn't know yet. We were naive. Was it worth it, everyone? Was it worth it? So, sure, Sonic looks better, but was it worth it?
Because we could have done away with season passes, battle passes.
We got another 20, 30 years before we're allowed another one.
Yeah. And you know what? I blame all the people that always have to look cool online. Because we used to get, way back in the day, we used to get actual stuff that you could use in game. Now it's just like certain RPGs will give you like, oh, you know, this weapon will help you get through the beginning levels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's just all skins because everyone wants to be like, I got this skin. And I'm like, geez, Louise, that's just so annoying.
Yeah, I remember grinding on Warcraft and Diablo and WoW back, like way back in the day before current WoW, like when Classic was the only WoW. And you'd spend so long doing these dungeons and raids, and you'd finally get that one rare weapon, and it was OP, and there was not going to be a patch. Like, you were going to use it and upset people, and guess what? But you earned it. And when people saw it, they knew what you had to go through to get that. But that's gone. Those days are gone.
Skull costume back in Halo.
Now, we gave that up. That pride in owning something.
Nope. Now it's just
and the right to be overpowered. Like you'd whoop everyone's ass, but everyone would be like, I mean, yeah, look at that axe.
You know what he had
to go through to get that. Like the early stages of Destiny 1 was like that.
Yeah, the Thorn.
But there were a lot of games like that, and then it just crashed.
Yeah, now it's just
and now
his wallet's bigger than
now it's
mine.
about skins. No one cares about earning something OP or awesome or badass and being able to like, look what I got, like hell yeah, and then people would play with you because of that. Now it's just, I got a skin. Well, how did you get that? Bought the battle pass and stuck with it for 3 months.
Apex. That just reminded me of
You're
Apex.
not a gamer.
Anyway,
I'm just being salty.
Yep. This is the salty episode. Maybe I'll title it the salty episode. Salty gamer special. I don't know. But guys, let us know your thoughts. Check us out. If you like what we do, hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/OSM Media. We would love and appreciate the support. It helps keep all of the podcasts going and helps us bring more amazing content for you. Also visit our store, gzshop.com, and grab yourself some exclusive merchandise. Couldn't say exclusive for a moment there. So yeah, go check those out. And as always, you have been amazing. Stay safe out there. Look after yourself and look after each other. And we will catch all you amazing people on the next episode. Later.